Okay, so onward and upward. Our last research today, I found really interesting, and again, it kind of made me a little cranky because I didn't like what they derived from it. So there's a study that was done that they were looking at people who are on the autism spectrum often have a hard time reading other people's emotions and acting on it. And what the study wanted to do was to look at, is it that they're having a hard time reading the emotion, or are they having a hard time knowing what to do with that? So the study did these scans of, first of all, they had already looked at how people's brains work when they're looking at people's faces. So, they looked at this is previous studies, looked at when neurotypical people look at somebody who's got a very, angry face, what part of the brain lights up? When you're looking at a happy face, what part of the brain lights up? We've seen in some studies that when we compare that with folks who are on the spectrum, that part of the brain doesn't light up or doesn't light up as much. So the study wanted to look at, does the brain light up in the same way? Is it taking in the information in the same way? But is it able to, or is the issue someplace else that we don't know what to do with the information?
Right.
So I thought that was interesting.
I thought it was interesting too. And what they found out was that the brains of individuals with autism successfully encode facial emotions. So they are successfully receiving that information. So where does the problem come in, Shannon?
So, but see, for me, this goes to the fact that this is great news, because people have been saying for years that people with autism are not empathetic, that they can't read emotion, and that's all malarkey. Those of us who have kids on the spectrum know this already, but this will tell all the researchers this. But what it tells us is that the social component is, I don't know what to do with it. I see your face, I can identify in my brain that something's going on there, but I don't know what to do with it. That's the social impairment. And we all have that to some extent. I mean, when was the last time that you were in a room with somebody who was having an emotion, Nancy, and that you thought to yourself, oh, I don't really know what to do?
Right.
I think we've all felt that at some point. And gosh, if you haven't felt that with COVID, it happens. And it happens across all spectrums, right? To all people. So I don't think that that's insurmountable. For me, that becomes a teaching thing. And there's many different prongs to the teaching. It's teaching people to understand that they're not responsible for other people's emotions. It's that you don't have to feel anxiety when someone is feeling something, and that giving you a bag of tools of knowing what you can do. My perfect example is, a lot of people don't like the show Big Bang Theory. But I thought it was really interesting that many of the characters I felt were inspired by different aspects of being on the spectrum. But one of the characters in particular, whenever someone would get upset, one of the tools that his mother had put in his backpack when he was little is, if someone is showing signs of being upset, he would say, let me make you a cup of tea. Now, it became a joke in the show because that's not always appropriate. And that's the only tool that he was given by his mother. Someone displays that they're in distress. What I do is make a cup of tea. What we would want to do for that individual is give them many different things and teach them that in this circumstance, that's a really helpful thing. But when somebody's pinned under a car, you don't offer to make them a cup of tea.
Right.
So I did this one quote. Matthew Lerner, who was the senior author and associate professor of psychology, psychiatry, and pediatrics at Stony Brook University, where they did this study, he said, our findings indicate the latter part of the question appears to be that the more likely explanation for why many autistic individuals struggle to read facial emotions, particularly now when mask wearing is pervasive and everyone has less facial emotion information available to them in a daily life, it is especially important to understand how, when, and for whom struggles in reading these emotions emerge, and also that we may be misunderstanding the nature of these struggles. I thought it was interesting that he referenced the mask wearing, because if they're reading it the same as everybody, then we're all hindered in the same way by the mask reading. And for me, he was saying, well, I think that the way that people are addressing this isn't useful. Instead of worrying about the fact that they aren't recognizing it, that there are programs where, for instance, for Temple Grandin, her mom took pictures of emotion and then taught her this is what the labels for them are. And I think that that's an important thing, that we label it with language. But then the next phase, which I think you and I have been treated to good quality ABA, and so our kids have already had this phase of it, but a lot of people aren't, is what do you do when you see that someone is upset? What do you do? How do you react when you see that someone is smiling? That is, a big component of ABA, of giving those tools to people to know what are possible responses, not one set one. Is that kind of what you took away from it too, Nancy?
Yes, that's, I think you summed it up very well. That, how do we react once we see that emotion?
Yeah. And that it doesn't, because a lot of times people on the spectrum, I think what I've observed is that there's anxiety that comes with seeing people. I think back to Romario, our good friend Romario, who cannot be around aggression. It, like, he has a flight or fight, not even a fight response. He has a flight response to aggression. And when he sees someone yelling or getting upset, he turns and he runs. It's not that he's not reading it. It's that is his response, because it creates anxiety for him.
Which makes me wonder whether a lot of individuals who elope or wonder have that same reaction, possibly.
Yeah, well, and I think that these are things that we have to take into consideration. So I love that the study is done and rules out that it's not that our individuals on the spectrum are hampered in terms of reading the emotion. It's being able to cope with and respond to it in a way that's meaningful to them. Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me, and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.